Hiya guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Retro RPG. Because at the end of another week, the end of another poll, we've got a very slim win for the James Bond 007 RPG. Now this is going to be a PDF review, so we'll be going over to the computer desktop to have a look at that in a second. And as usual, I'll be back at the end of the video with some other channel related stuff and some other poll related stuff. But before I do that, I'd like to take a moment to talk about my Patreons, who this week I have been told like their drinks shaken, not stirred. Now these are wonderful, wonderful people who make all of this possible. Their support is so much appreciated. I'd like to thank them from the absolute bottom of my heart. But if you'd like to join them and help support the channel, or you'd like to see these videos a week early, or you'd like to see exclusive videos we put up for Patreons, then there's Patreon in the description down below. If you check it out, it'd be very much appreciated. But anyway, let's have a look at the James Bond 007 RPG.
So, this is the James Bond 007 role-playing in Her Majesty's Secret Service role-playing game, which came out from Victory Games in 1983. And it's a spy role-playing game. We've seen very similar things in the past. We looked at Top Secret, and we've looked at some spycraft stuff, although I don't think we've actually covered the rules. And we've looked at adventures for the James Bond 007 role-playing game in the past. I think this is the first time I've covered adventures before I've covered the main game. But it's a spy game, but unlike the others, Top Secret, etc., this is laser focused onto James Bond. Whereas Top Secret is trying to cover anything within the spy genre, so James Bond, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., for example, all sorts of different things. This is laser focused onto James Bond, and I think it succeeds for that by creating a far more detailed universe, although there is an amazingly small amount of universe building within the book. Now, before we go to the back cover, I'd like to just crack open here and see Game Design, Development and Project Coordination by Gerard Christopher Clark, who is a known and respected games designer. But the name that jumps out to me more is under Systems Development. We've got Gregory Gordon and Neil Randall. Well, Greg Gordon is somebody whose work we've covered on the channel quite extensively and something I like a lot. As well as doing the James Bond 007 role-playing game, he was involved in the DC Heroes, which I think we've put in the poll a couple of times. We've covered some of the source books as well for that, but we haven't covered the main game yet. For West End Games, he developed, or was involved in all 3 editions of the Star Wars role-playing game, which we've covered, and I absolutely adore the Star Wars role-playing game, the D6 system. I still do stuff on a daily basis for my website for that Star Wars game. And while he was there, he was also involved in the development of Torg. He then moved on to Fazo and was involved in the development of the rules for Earth Dawn, which is one of my favourite fantasy games. I've talked about it at length in the past. And beyond that, he was involved with Pinnacle Entertainment Group when they brought out Deadlands, and for Dungeons & Dragons under both TSR and Wizards of the Coast. He's been involved in a bunch of books. He did the original Castle Greyhawk, as well as Dungeon Master's Guide to and Master Manual 2 for the 4th edition. So he's got a long career, plus a bunch of stuff I've absolutely loved on the channel. So that was the name that jumped out to me, but there's a bunch of people here whose work I do recognise. But going to the back cover. Experience the life of a secret agent, work for MI6, the British Secret Service, or assume the role of the most famous agent of all. Prepare yourself for endless thrills, high living and danger. Reach out for the excitement in the world of James Bond 007. Careen through high-speed chases as you track down villains or escape their evil henchmen. Put yourself against Objob and Jaws, or thwart the plans of Dr. No and Goldfinger. Choose your special skills as an agent. Weapon and vehicle handling, hand-to-hand combat, gambling, mountaineer, demolitions. Select your equipment from Q Branch. Have your weapons and vehicles modified to suit each of your missions. Obtain the coveted 00 rank, your license to kill. Fully illustrated basic game. All the information necessary to play the game is provided to the Gamesmasters and players, plus an introductory adventure, The Island of Dr. No, for ages 12 to adult. And some lovely artwork throughout. Obviously based on the James Bond movies. We've got the bit where he leaps the car over the river, various speedboat chases. It's obviously supposed to be Roger Moore. Right to the cover, that's definitely supposed to be Roger Moore and maybe Barbara Bach. I can't think exactly which actress that would be. But it's based on the movies. There is one big thing in this, though, where Blofeld and Spectre, they couldn't get the licensing for. So they introduced their own version of that. And in my opinion, that really works for the game. Because if you're going up against Blofeld and Spectre, you know you're not going to defeat them. They're James Bond's enemies. They are above your pay grade when you're in the spy agency, therefore the best guy to go after. But having this other group, I think they're called Tarot, allows you to have enemies of your own. So I think that works pretty well for the game. Anyway, carrying on in, we've got the credits page, which we've already looked at, a dedication page, and then we're into the contents, showing that the book's about 150 pages long, 148 pages. The player section. As I said, I like the design. I love the James Bond figure in the gun barrel or camera, whichever it's supposed to be, which is used to head up each section. Very, very nice piece of design. Role-playing in the world of James Bond. So, detailing what it's like to the fans of James Bond, notes for experienced role-players, materials of role-playing, talking through the rules, the dice, etc. We've got a glossary of terms, different games concepts, all the usual stuff explaining how and what a role-playing game is. And quality of results tables, an example of play. Now, one of the other things I do like about it is this would be a game which would really work with a single player. James Bond tends to work by himself rather than as part of a team. While he has lots of people backing him up, they are more suited to being NPCs. So if you're going into a role-playing game where it's one player, one Gamesmaster, I think the James Bond 007 format works especially well for that. While obviously you can work as a team, this one really does allow you to have one very powerful character which can do everything. And he's got the support teams, he's got all the people who can do the techie stuff behind the scene. So that sample of gameplay, we've got beginning characters. So a couple of samples, we've got James Bond and Anya Amasova, which are 00 rank characters. We've got 3 different ranks of characters. 00 are the most powerful ones. Then we've got agents, and we've got Felix Leiter and Holly Goodhead. And then we've got rookies, who are Mary Goodnight and Lieutenant Chung Sun Hip. And obviously, these are from the best to average to the rookie beginning type characters. And we go straight on to creating a character. We've got strength, dex, willpower, perception, and intelligence are our stats. We've got different skills, physical aspects. We'll come more onto the skills later. Physical aspects, expenditure, and a sample character sheet, which has this multiplication table taking up a very large section on it. Characteristics and skills, filling out your character records. As I said, the artwork's very much based on the movies. James Bond being chased down the mountaintop by other skiing. I think they were Smersh agents, weren't they, in the movie? But chasing after him with guns. Talking through different derived values, money, weaknesses, different professions, fields of expertise. And then we're on to the skills section, where it details those out more. So we've got, see the list of skills, we've got boating, charisma, cryptography, sixth sense, torture, etc. And we detail those out slightly more. Lots and lots of artwork throughout. It is very well illustrated. But we're just detailing out skills in this section. Mountaineering, piloting, sixth sense, as I said, stealth, torture, connoisseur, first aid, photography. Then we're on to the combat section. Obviously, I'll do a rules breakdown on this, and we will go into this in more detail. But we've got combat section, so what actions are, movement, damage, explanation of wound levels, hand-to-hand damage, gunfire, spraying fire around, throwing weapons. What else we got here? What happens if they end up hospitalized? We've got how to handle chases. Very nicely done, because chases will be a big part of any spy thing, whether you're trying to track down the enemy or, as it said earlier, if you're being chased by the goons of the bad guy. So an explanation of steps, maneuvers you can do, so you can pursue or flee, you can force people, you can do quick turns, double backs, tricks. how to do gunfire in vehicle combat. We've got interacting with non-player characters. Because obviously this game is designed for people who are coming into role-playing through liking James Bond. So you've got to explain a lot to people. So it's very detailed here, talking about what you can do, how you'd be using skills on them, or you can be just using role-playing. Gambling and casino life. So talking about different card games. Because obviously that's a big part of a James Bond story, going in and playing Baccarat or whatever. Fame. So we've got fame points. We've got hero points. And experience and character growth. No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die. Wasn't that Blofeld? I don't remember. We've got equipment section, so going through different weapons, and then we've got detailed them out. And there's a nice piece of history on each of the weapons. The Walther PPK, it explains, was basically phased out of British use after one jammed, when Princess Anne and her husband somebody was trying to abduct them, and their bodyguard pulled their Walther PPK and it failed to fire. So British Secret Service basically phased them out after that. And I thought it was the standard James Bond gun. But we've got other things here, survival rifles, Uzis, AKMs. We've got different vehicles. So we've got standard Aston Martins, the Lotus Esprit, a Toyota Celica, which I find slightly odd because one of my friends had one of those for a very long time. Bentleys, Kawasaki's. We've got various air vehicles, the Acrostar. I have a story about that, but this is not the place for it. Lockheed Starlifter, so a large heavy plane which would be used to transport a spy team around, probably. The Wallace Autogyro. Various boats, a jet foil, Clement boat, a power boat, miscellaneous equipment, so attaché cases, money belts, watches, including night finder goggles, optic fiber decoders. Section on vehicle modifications, which is very, very brief, talking about armoring vehicles, adding extra equipment. Obviously, this is gone into in way more detail in a source book they released, the Q manual, where they went into way more equipment. This is just a brief getting into it. So we've got damage and repair equipment, and then we're into the Gamesmaster section. How to be a successful Gamesmaster. Elements of a mission, drawing out maps, working with the players, what to do during the missions. How to handle time, playing NPCs, personalizing major villains. So why would the major villain be way more important? What are they going to do to make the heroes really want to beat them? Contacting MI6. Obviously, your players are spies, but they work for the governments. They have resources to call upon. So how do you put that in? How to use non-player characters. Shady contacts, and we've got various tables to roll on for random stats and skills, so we can make up various types of NPCs. Encounter system, so where you might encounter them. Lots and lots of information. MI6 itself, detailing out how MI6 is organized. So we've got internal security, internal affairs, records, files, cryptanalysis, photo analysis, media analysis, internal communications, interrogation, briefing and debriefing, loads and loads of sections. But this is just very briefly gone over. I don't know whether they released a source book which detailed this far more as well. But we're on to investigations and enforcement, then personnel. So we've got M. We've got Q's, Major Geoffrey Boothroyd, Chief of Staff, Miss Moneypenny, Penelope Smallbone, and then using James Bond as a non-player character. So if the players or one of the players isn't playing James Bond, then you can bring him into stuff, make it detailed out that he won't turn up and complete the mission for them, but he can be something they call on, a visible connection with the source material. Saving the day. Tarot, which is their replacement for Spectre, including their leader, Akmal Al-Korba. Different sections they've got, their blackmail section, their assassination, their kidnapping. with the different leaders of that, robbery, military action and operations, their director, Tarf Ferrek Scorpios. We've got various characters out of the movies and allies and enemies of James Bond. Tracy Bond, William Fairbanks. I don't recognize some of these, but Holly Goodhead, Mary Goodnight, Felix Leiter, Sheriff J.W. Pepper. While he's not a massive character in many of the movies, he was very important in a couple of them, I believe. Comedy character. Honey Chili Rider, or Honey Rider, Solitaire. Who we got? Hugo Drax, Pussy Galore, Ulrich Goldfinger, Jaws, Kananga, Rosa Klebb. Who else we got that we recognise? Oddjob, Dr. No, Francisco Scaramanga, Carl Stromberg. And these ones I don't recognise. Perhaps these are more from the novels than many of the movies. Talking through thrilling cities. So we've got different areas. What was that? Hong Kong, London, Nassau, Paris. Just detailing places of interest so you can drop them into your games, especially things like the intelligent agencies that operate within them. Rio de Janeiro, Tokyo, travel times around the world, air travel, train travel, driving, how Q branch equipment would be shipped, different charts to travel between them, and then we're on to the adventure, the island of Dr. No. Detailed out very sort of locations, but it's a choose your own adventure style thing. So player decision, if you call out, go to 39, if you sit and wait, go to 60. I haven't played through this, but it's a good way of getting a single player into the story. And I'm fairly surprised by it being used this early. Multiplication tables, mission records, character records, and that's us to the back cover. So, that's the James Bond 007 role-playing game. I like the way that they've fleshed out the world through how you'll call on resources, how you'll play the game being different to other role-playing games. And it's laser focus onto James Bond in sculpting the different sections after what you'll encounter in a James Bond movie or book, the gambling, the traveling to exotic locations, and all that sort of thing. I really, really like. I am very, very impressed with this, I have to say. All from a game which came out in 1983.
So, that was a James Bond 007 RPG. That won the poll this week with some 32% of the vote, which was only narrowly ahead of Champions from Hero Games from 1981 on 28%. But Champions was winning early on in the week. I didn't know which one was going to win, but James Bond eventually went ahead. Champions will make a reappearance at some point in the future. Behind them, on 20%, was Mars for GURPS. And then on 19% was Force and Destiny from Fantasy Flight Games, the Star Wars role-playing game. But as usual, they're all wiped out the poll, and we're going over to a Retro Adventures poll. And because Aftermath succeeded the other week, I thought I'd go with the first Aftermath adventure. So, Into the Ruins, Scenario Pack 1 for Aftermath from Fantasy Games Unlimited, which came out in 1981. I don't know much about this. I think it's setting up an area and then giving us a few adventures to play in that. But I really don't know much about it. It'll be fascinating to find out. After that, we've got Decision at Midnight for the Star Trek role-playing game from FASA from 1986. Now, all of the Star Trek adventures we've covered have been fantastic, really interesting ideas, including some real twists on the Star Trek format. So it'll be interesting to see if this is another fantastic adventure from them. I don't doubt it will be. After that, we've got the Ghost Tower of Inverness for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons TSR in 1980. Yep, we're going with very early adventures here. Now, I've played through this one, and it's a very straightforward early Advanced Dungeons & Dragons adventure where you're just clearing out one location. But I remember it being a whole load of fun and having some concepts in it which made it a bit different. So it'll be fascinating to have a look through that in detail. And finally, we've got Dark Angel for Shadowrun from FASA in 1993. Because we've gone through all the 1980s Shadowrun adventures and we're starting to get onto some of the later ones here. Now, Dark Angel, I remember being a whole load of fun, including the return of a character from an earlier adventure. So that was really interesting because the Shadowrun adventures didn't tend to be that linked. But anyway, it's in your hands now, you decide. I'm guessing Shadowrun and Dungeons & Dragons are going to be the popular choices. I would like to see Star Trek, and it'd be really fun if we could have a look at some Aftermath. But, as I said, it's in your hands. And what else have I been up to? Well, over on Drive-Thru-RPG this week, I've been releasing some fairy tale races, and I'll be working my way through to classes. Because it really occurred to me the differences between fairy tale stories and fantasy aren't much, but there's some interesting differences in there, so I thought I'd play around with the format a little. As usual, these are also uploaded to a shared Google Drive for patrons of Laird and Librarian status, if you check it out in the description down below. And over on RPG Gamer, well, still working my way through the Andor series. Season 2 was absolutely brilliant, but there's so many characters to cover in it, and so many new vehicles, equipment, etc. Great stuff to stat out for the Star Wars D6 system. So if you're into that, head on over to rpggamer.org and see what we're doing over there. But anyway, as usual, I've been wittering on for quite long enough, so thank you very much for watching. As always, most of all, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.